Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have SEKTORI. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Kimo Latinen, SEKTORI released in November of 2025 for the Xbox Series, the PlayStation 5, and the PC, which is the version we're looking at today. This title is an incredible twin-stick shooter that's part Geometry Wars, part roguelite, and also a little bit of Gradius thrown in there. Having played the Next Fest demo from 2024, this title has easily been one of my most anticipated shoot-em-ups, and the full game has not disappointed. This one comes highly recommended from the chef, especially if you like twin-stick shoot-em-ups. With that said, there is one problem. It's not available on the Nintendo Switch, so for the purposes of today's video, we are going and using a Steam Deck, and it plays beautifully on that. With all that said, we find ourselves at the main menu. Before we dive in, I do want to put out a photosensitivity warning. There are some flashing sequences as well as a lot of visual effects that might be problematic for some people. If this is you, unfortunately this is going to be a title I have to recommend you pass. Under options, there are some accessibility options, and for the purposes of today's review, I do have the camera distance set to far and the screen shake set to less. Other than that, everything else is set to default. Now, under play, we have all these game modes available. Initially, you only have campaign available, but after playing through campaign, you'll start to unlock the other modes, and these all provide different ways to play the game and provide quite a bit of both replayability and additional content. So this game definitely has you taken care of as far as your overall value. Now, under campaign, which is the main mode we're going to be focusing on today, we can see that we have our difficulty selection here. There are 3 difficulties to choose between: experience, challenge, and revolution. But in addition to that, there are other ways you can change up your run. First off, we have the select ship. Here you can change the ships with any you have unlocked. Initially we have the Redeemer, which is your default. Then we can unlock the Defiler, and there's a third ship which I have not unlocked at this point called the Sentinel. Then you have all these looks available as well that you'll unlock that you can customize your ship with throughout the course of playing the game. Then we have the select decks, which is another way that we can both customize our run. Initially we'll have these 8 decks available, and then you can unlock an additional 8 through the course of gameplay. So what does that mean? Well, I'll kind of explain what those decks do while we play the game itself. Now, with all that said, let's dive right in. So as far as the movement is concerned, this game is a straightforward twin-stick shoot-'em-up. The left stick controls the ship's movement, whereas the right stick both shoots and aims the direction we're firing. In addition to that, we also have one other option for attack by standard, and that is the dash or charge. Well, I guess the game calls it the strike, where we'll burst forward and deal damage to any enemies that we encounter, as well as there's a slight explosion at the end, and we are temporarily invulnerable while we're using that. Now let's start to talk about some of the other things that are awesome and unique about this game, as things are going quite quickly. So in the left of the screen, you'll see that there's several power-up options there, such as blaster and missile. So the way that works is it's very kind of Gradius filled. So throughout the course of defeating the enemies, they'll drop experience. As we collect those experience points, we get tokens that are called the selectors. So think of those kind of as a Gradius style upgrade. Those tokens will increment our power-up selection by 1. So initially you start off with speed, and then you can have the choice of other things. So you can just simply use it to build up score, but there's also the ability to upgrade your strike, to buy additional shields, get missiles, or even upgrade your blaster. Which for the Redeemer, your default ship, I do recommend getting at least one upgrade for the blaster and the missile before we encounter our first boss. Now there'll be another type of token that we can pick up that takes us to this screen here, the Evolve, and this is where those decks come into play. So these decks are basically packs of 3 cards. We can open all the decks that we have available, and it will add those cards to our decks as well as giving us a choice. Sometimes we'll even have a choice of a rare pickup here, and the rares are very nice, but they do come with a negative effect, which is highlighted in the red there. So for the purposes of this video today, with these choices here, let's start by just simply picking a shield so we can survive a little bit further. So we'll keep on upgrading our ship, and we'll next pick up the missile. One thing I do want to say though is I do recommend usually picking up at least a couple speed, as especially against the bosses that will prove to be quite useful. So you have to kind of balance, at least initially, whether you're going for speed, survivability, or even the strikes. Generally I tend to focus more on the shields and or rather on the shots and the missiles, and only the shields if necessary. But the one thing I do really appreciate about this system is it does allow you to customize it however you want. There's also tokens that do provide just score. And one thing to note about the selectors is they don't stay on the screen forever. They will ultimately decay. There's also, in the bottom right of the screen, there is a word that's filled out, and that one will, the length of which will be dependent on your difficulty selection. So if you're playing it on experience, the word is Mirage. If you're playing it on challenge, the word is SEKTORI. If you're playing it on Revolution, the word is Revolution. Collecting, let's see, the letters and filling out that word there will give you a super powered mode, basically a rainbow bridge is what it's referred to, that is a bit visually busy, but it does make you quite powerful. So now we found ourselves at the end of the first sequence fighting a boss, and the bosses are in random order, so it looks like we drew the architect. So this boss fight, we have this big large enemy that takes up the middle of the stage, and there's these blue nodes that we have to destroy in order to win this fight. So there are several bosses that you can potentially draw, and the architect is one that I kind of feel, at least on the earlier forms, is kind of in the middle of the difficulty. One of the things that does make it difficult is that it can pin you on the wall and you can take damage that way. So now let's talk a little bit, while we're talking about that, about damage. So the game uses a shield system. You start with a number of shields, usually 3 by default, and as you take damage you lose those shields. Once you're out of shields, if you take any more damage, then it will be game over. It is possible to buy additional shields through the power-up screen, and some of the cards in the evolution will also provide that for us. Keep in mind your dash does go and provide you a little bit of invulnerability. And there is an explosion that is caused by you losing health, so that was actually what enabled us to finish the boss fight there. Now with all that said, we do get a couple selectors, so I will use that to go and buy another shield, and then also another evolution. So here we can open up the time pack, and then I can choose to pick any of these upgrades here. Unfortunately, none of these are super exciting, so we'll just simply take the one that gives us a longer blaster projectile lifetime. So our primary shots will travel farther. That's not as useful with the Redeemer, but if you're playing the Defiler, those upgrades can be very helpful. Here's another evolution, so we can get additional card packs. So here we see that we can pick up the Seeker in a rare form here, so that'll allow our blaster shots to home in on enemies slightly, but we will have no shields until 75 enemies are destroyed. Well, we have a lot of enemies on the screen. I feel relatively safe taking that one, so we'll go with that upgrade. So now let's talk, throughout the course of one whole stage, we've actually seen it going on quite a bit, so let's talk a little bit now about the stage itself. One of the things that's really awesome about this game is the stage is transforming in this awesome procedurally generated way. So when that happens, the sections of the stage that are going to go and fall off are highlighted in red, and then you also have sections that you can see that might be beyond the wall that will be where things are available for being able to move between. One thing to note, it doesn't matter how many shields you have, if you happen to be caught somewhere on the screen with where things are red, that will be an instant game over. So you have to be really careful when the stage is moving. And that's one of the things where you activate your complete out the word and activate the bonus mode. It becomes quite difficult. So now we can unlock the formations. So this one will be for any drones we purchase. But here, let's go ahead and take Speedster and increase the speed of the ship itself. And that's the basic gameplay loop for the campaign of SEKTORI. It's a very addicting kind of gameplay loop to be playing. So if you like games that are generally quick and addictive, then this is one that I can definitely recommend. That's one of the reasons why I was saying that it's a bit disappointing that it's not available on the Switch, as it's a great pick up and play kind of game. So being able to play it on a Steam Deck works out really well. And as I said, the performance on the deck is really great also. The game is one that is ideal to play with controller, so the control scheme for the deck really does complement this game beautifully. As far as the minus flavors are concerned, other than the fact that it's missing one of the platforms I would love to see this game on, I do think that sometimes during some of the boss fights, as well as some of the other sections of the game, specifically with some of the power-ups, things can become really busy and it's possible to lose yourself in the game itself, or as far as what's going on in terms of all the action. But as far as the plus flavors are concerned, as far as the upgrade loop is concerned, it's one of the things I really love about this game. So we have the ability to upgrade our various power-ups in that awesome Gradius-like style. And then in addition to that, we have those packs of cards so you can customize yourself to what you might like to pick up, as well as each run just feeling a little bit different because of the packs that you get. So this, if you're all out of shields and you die, that's unfortunately the way that your run will end, and we get our overall score and statistics here at the end of your gameplay. So while we're back here at the main screen, let's just take a quick second to switch to the Defiler and dive right back in. But with all those upgrades and the core gameplay loop just being so addictive, this is definitely an easy game to recommend, even if all that was here was the campaign. But in addition to that, you have all those bonus modes, a lot of which are more on the shorter side, but once again, it really lends itself to a nice pick up and play. So now, real quick, as I'm playing the Defiler, one thing to note is this ship does have a different power-up order than the Redeemer did, so you can also kind of pick which ship feels best for your particular playstyle. This one is a little bit slower, but its blaster is more powerful. And so there you have it. SEKTORI served up for your enjoyment. Definitely highly recommended from the chef. And with that, we find ourselves at the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again